Fossils, anatomy, embryos, and DNA reveal many similarities among species. The theory of evolution explains that these similarities are the result of common ancestry. All life on Earth descended from a common ancestor that lived billions of years ago. Ancestral populations changed and diversified over time, giving rise to new species. Scientists draw trees to show how all living things are related. Related species have similar anatomy. All birds have feathers and lay eggs. Mammals have fur and give birth to live young. Mammalian limbs have a similar skeletal structure. One bone is connected to two bones that are attached to a wrist and digits. This shared anatomy provides strong evidence that all mammals descended from a common ancestor. All plants contain chloroplasts and use leaves to harvest energy from the sun. Plants share these characteristics because they inherited them from a single ancestral species. Fossils provide further evidence of common ancestry. Transitional fossils are intermediate in form between two kinds of organisms. They provide examples of change over time and reveal when certain traits first appeared during the course of evolution. Tiktaalik is an intermediate form between fish and land animals. It had gills and scales, but it could also crawl around shore using fins that had wrists and finger bones. Tiktaalik's limbs remarkably display the transition from fins to feet. Archaeopteryx is the earliest known animal with feathers, but this flightless bird also resembled a two-legged dinosaur, having teeth, a long tail, and clawed wings. This fossil is evidence that birds evolved from reptiles. A series of fossils documents how mammals transitioned back to the sea. Ambiolucetus was the first to have four webbed feet. The animal lived on land, but hunted in the water. Like modern whales, it moved its spine up and down to swim. Today, whales no longer have visible hind legs, but tucked away inside their bodies are tiny, useless leg bones. These vestigial legs are clues to their evolutionary past. Developing embryos provide evidence for common ancestry. Early embryos look very much the same across a wide variety of species. Vertebrate limbs, for example, emerge in pairs along the body. Snake embryos begin to develop legs, but the budding hind limbs later retract. These transient limbs tell us snakes are related to four-legged vertebrates. Structures in human embryos reveal our relationship to fish. Both have a series of pouches near the developing throat. In fish, the pouches open to form gills, but in human and other vertebrate embryos, these transient gills transform into the jaw, ears, and throat. We even share an ancestor with boneless invertebrates. The soft-bodied lancelet has a rod of flexible cartilage called a notochord that supports its body. Human embryos still build a notochord, but before birth it's replaced by a backbone. All species are remarkably similar at the molecular level. Living things are made of cells. Every cell is surrounded by a plasma membrane and contains DNA and RNA. All living things use a universal genetic code and a common set of molecular tools to read DNA instructions and produce working proteins. About 500 genes are common to all species. These genes encode cellular machinery essential for life. Shared biochemistry and common genes provide strong evidence that all living things descended from the same ancestor. The history of our ancestors, both ancient and recent, is preserved in our DNA. Scientists compare the DNA sequences of different species to determine their positions on the tree of life. Organisms most similar at the DNA level are also the most closely related. Our DNA tells us we are more closely related to mice than to flies. And we know our closest living relative is the chimpanzee because 98% of our DNA is the same. Because life is related, we can study other organisms to learn about our own biology. Scientists are currently comparing the human and chimp genomes. They hope to identify genes that have changed over time to produce uniquely human features, including our large complex brain. Evolution from a common ancestor explains the similarities we see among species. New fossil discoveries, further studies of development, and expanded DNA sequence data will continue to inform the tree of life and reveal how all living things are related.